Hey everyone, Jim Phoenix here, and boy, am I excited for this next guest. So, we are doing our author series for What's Kraken, and sometimes you need a bedtime story, don't you? Sometimes you like a little bit of a fairy tale, don't you? Sometimes you just need that little erotic twist, don't you? Well, we got you covered on this one. Our next author is none other than L.C. Moon from Fairy Tales from the Underworld, Part 1. A Bedtime Story, Beauty Meets the Beast. Mm. And by the way, you might not want to read this one to your kids. All this and more on our next What's Kraken? Author Edition. Hit it. Hey everyone, Jim Phoenix here, and boy, do we have another exciting edition of What's Kraken. It is our author edition. Look at that. We are bringing you the biggest and brightest and bestest of the whole entire universe, world, and galaxies, depending which one's bigger in your point of view. And we have none other than L.C. Moon, who is the author of Fairy Tales from the Underworld, Part 1, A Bedtime Story. Spoiler, it's not a bedtime story for kids. Beauty Meets the Beast. Elsie, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Jim. I really appreciate it.
Question number 1. In theoretical particle physics. No, that's the wrong interview. New set of questions. Sorry, my bad. No. So when you were writing this, I just want to kind of break through your ability to write something. Does it go in your head first and then you get it in a page, or you plot it out like chapter by chapter? How do you write your books?
Right. Well, I mean, this is my first book, so I can just tell
Book
you
singular.
about the technique so far.
Yes.
And it's actually, I didn't really have a technique. It's been a story that's been with me for so long. And it's always, it's kind of, it started as a story I would tell myself before going to bed because, I was always imagining this really intense relationship, how it would play out. And every night I would add on to it and add on to it until it became an actual, like, beginning to end, act one, act two, act three stories. And after that, I've always written, but poetry. I was never wrote a book. I never set out to write a book, but I always enjoyed reading for my own. And I was discussing with a friend, and I was telling her, like, I thought of this really cool story, blah blah blah. And she was like, "Lynn, you have to put it in a book. This is an amazing story. Like, just write it and see where you go from there." And I started just doing it on my own. How I go is, like, I have to see the scene in my head first, as if it was from a movie, and then I try to put on paper I try to replicate what I see in my head on paper, and that's how I always go scene by scene when I'm writing.
That's awesome, and I wonder, how close do you get from the scene in your head to the words on the page?
How close I get from the senior head to the
Scene in your head.
Yeah.
Because you have this perfect vision in your head. You're going to see everything, and it's going to be this and this happens like a movie in your head.
Yeah.
How close do you get that reality onto the page?
I honestly will not stop until I get it. So I can spend an entire evening on one stupid paragraph and, like, drive myself crazy. And sometimes I'm in the zone and I'm boom, 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 boom. But as long as it doesn't match exactly, not just like what the characters are doing, but the vibe, the reaction, the mannerism, to me, they're all very real characters, and it has to stay true to their authentic selves and the vibe and the mood of what I'm feeling. And I want the readers to go through how I felt when I was experiencing it in my head.
Well, that's wonderful. I think that comes through. The perfection comes through. So I know we reviewed it. Spoiler alert. We reviewed it for our site. And again, Fairy Tales from the Underworld, Part 1, A Bedtime Story. Beauty Meets the Beast. Not for kids. And that's, I think, the first thing our review says. Not for little kids. But it is a bedtime story from a certain point of view. And from our review, we're going to gush a bit. We thought it was brilliantly done. It was smooth. All the things popped out. It created the universe there. Some people have a hard time creating universes. So I think that hard work paid off.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, that's
I am a Virgo, so we're perfectionists by nature.
Perfectionists.
It's a gift and a curse. But I think it's definitely worth it at the end, because there's nothing worse than you're really submerged in an experience, and then a bit of a dialogue or something just, like, throws it off, and then
Flunks it out, yeah.
you're aware that you're reading a story as opposed to experiencing it. So that's what I wanted to avoid.
And I think you hit the realistically. Now, I have to ask, because I know what the book's about. I've been for those who don't know, I do read once in a while. Every once in a while, I do read.
Not my book though, not yet.
I didn't review this. Is the thing. I didn't review your. That's like my staff members. Like they reviewed it, but I said I would read it, and I started reading. I'm like, okay. My question was, how old were you when you had the story in your head?
Right. I would say like early teens. Yeah.
The story is like, oh, okay. So your bedtime story in your head.
Yeah.
And you told your friends this particular story that I'm starting to read.
Yeah, but I was older when I told her about. Like I started like the main like the characters or dynamic that started very
then. Okay, got it. That makes. I was like, my gosh, like you're more open than I was when I was like a teenager.
No. That was in around like 2013, whatever. It was like before I released it the first time.
So it really took time to grow and grow and grow and grow. Yeah. And you had the whole thing. You had the whole thing juggling from start to beginning.
Yeah.
Or, wait, that is the same. Start and beginning is the same thing.
Right. And not every scene explicitly, but their journey, the key scenes, the key aspects of their journey together. Yeah, that I definitely knew, like going and where all that was gonna lead.
And you had this as a single book. I know this is part 1, so I'm guessing it's going to be part 2 and part 3, part Z.
3.
3, okay. Yeah. 3 and done. Just like Star Wars should have been. 3 and done.
Oh, I mean, I'm the generation of like the second one, like the second. So I actually enjoyed. It.
I was censoring my thought. Although you're right, I should censor your Jar Jar Binks with the.
Oh, Natalie Portman! I love Natalie.
Natalie Portman was good in it. No, I'll give you Natalie Portman. And I got to see Yoda jumping around. Everything else is kind of like, I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. We all have one. So, if you had the entire, did you have the trilogy planned out as a kid, or did you just had the first part as a kid?
No, it was really the first part, and it was actually at first it was meant to be just that. And I was discussing with my very close group of beta readers, friends, trusted companions in this journey that were like, no. There's more to the story, Lynn. Just go back to the writing board, figure it out. There's no way it ends there. And at first I was kind of annoyed. I was like, well, it's my story. This is how it ends. And the more I thought about it, the more the story continued to reveal it to me. And there was still some aspect, that's why it took so long. There was some aspect that I still didn't even know. And then later on, the more I delved into their universe, and I was like, oh yeah. And sometimes I made connections that I didn't even make. And I made them later on. I was like, oh, that's why this, because it makes sense, So on some level, I feel like it was always a whole, and it just picked up little pieces at a time,
I like that, because I like that you took the beta readers seriously, because some people think, again, writing, what was it? Like Chris Titus and Tony Horton talking about this, like it's ego. It's so weird because we're both Virgos. I'll go spoiler alert in this one. So for me, I've been maybe accused of having a big ego. At the same time, very fragile one. It's like the biggest ego in the world. Like I can do everything. I'm very like somehow fragile at the same time.
Shocking.
I know.
Virgo of you.
I know exactly it. And I think being able to take that advice from the beta readers, because there's a temptation to going like, my books, go F yourselves.
Of course. And even like when I'm sending them chapter to chapter, and every time there was a comment, my heart would sink, and I'd be like, like how she just doesn't understand the genius behind, and then you have to take a reality check and be like, you know what? The way I deal with my ego is I have a very fragile ego. I have imposter syndrome. I did not study creative writing. I didn't do the official, like the way you're supposed to do it. I just did my own thing. And in the end, I understood how much my beta readers cared about the story. And the point is to make the story as good as possible and to take the backseat to the story. It's not my chance to shine. It's the story's chance.
Story's chance.
Right?
Very good. I appreciate that. And I think that's something that a lot of younger writers, especially, or newer writers, have to learn the hard way. Taking criticism. That's one of the things you said about your background. Like, I didn't go to creative. I did. And that's part of the things that you see is being able to take a punch. You have to be able to go, I had this scene in my head. It just fell flat.
Yeah.
and how to make it better. Okay, I got this advice now. I can make this better.
Of course, it's crushing
And so,
because
yeah.
you doubt yourself, and then
Mhm.
So, but like I said, because I just kept focusing on the story itself, and as long as I would see it as okay, I can do better. Not I did wrong. I can do better. I can bring it
There
closer
you
to
go.
where it's supposed to be. So my beta has faith in me that I can do better. She's not telling me you're not good. She's telling me do it justice, do it better. So it's a vote of confidence if you look at it like that, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing is anyone who's taken enough time to read through everyone's stuff and give them feedback, they're invested in you. They're invested in you. They're invested in the
I
story
think
already.
we're
So
having
their
some
feedback's just
technical
not to be
issues.
mean, is to make things better. And I appreciate it. And it comes through when your book, is your book out? I know we got an arc. I know it was out at the beginning and it stopped and then it's coming out soon again.
Yeah. So what happened is I wrote the book initially in 2014,
Okay.
and it's an interesting project because how it happens is my sister is a composer, and I didn't tell her anything. I just sent her the chapters I was writing them just
Right.
for her feedback, and she felt really inspired by the story that she composed an instrumental soundtrack for it without telling me anything. And I kind of recognize it. Like I was listening to the musical pieces. I was like, Lana, is that like Laura and Kane's song? Is that this? Is that part? And she was like, yes, oh my God, I can believe
Oh,
yes,
wow.
I did a good job. If I can, if you were able to guess that it's their music, then I did it correctly. And it became a very collaborative creative process.
That's
She would give
cool.
me feedback on my writing and I would give her feedback on her music. I was like, yeah, that's not Kane. That's too aggressive. That's too this. That's too that. And her husband, may he rest in peace, really wanted to. He saw the opportunity and he wanted to
Right.
see this. And he was a businessman, so he wanted to take over publishing and the CD and everything. At the time, we were selling CDs in 2014.
Wow. I remember those
Yeah.
times.
And unfortunately, he passed away. It was a very
Right.
drastic thing that happened in my family. And I was going through very difficult struggles at the time on a personal level, which I will spare you the joys of being a Virgo when your life is crashing down. But I stepped away from writing altogether. I stepped away. We took the book off the shelves. I was crushed. I was not
Right.
excited to be able to write. And it was honestly like very serendipitous in 2022. It was actually my publicist who reached out to me and he was like there's a very real opportunity. I think you need to work on this right now to re-release it. And after almost 8 years of not touching anything, I decided to, what, let me go read it again, and maybe just like
Right.
to make sure, clean it up. And as I went back to just clean it up, I realized, what? I've evolved a lot in those past 8 to 10 years. I think I can do the story even, do it more justice, even
But
right
did
better.
you? I mean, what major events could have happened in the last couple of years that would make people introspective and go, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!"
Honestly, I was really amazingly and pleasantly surprised by the number of readers that stayed like loyal and
Really,
followed. And
that's
yeah,
good.
that was honestly, as an author, it was the biggest compliment. I was like, what, even if one person reads it, I'll be happy. Like if one person appreciates it, I would have done my job. I'm doing it for me anyways. And the response I've been getting has been so amazing from my 2014 readers. And honestly, I'm just gathering new readers. A lot of people don't know about the background, and it
Right.
doesn't matter. You don't need to. The story is its own universe, regardless of its past. So yeah, it's been
Well, that's one of the things I really like what I see, and I love the journey of it. I love the information end of it. And when we're talking about writing and writing processes,
yeah,
you talked about this going out first, and then it kind of went off the shelf, and then came back, right?
yeah.
So as we're doing this series for authors and young aspiring writers, what advice would you give aspiring writers?
Young.
Well, young is always
I
come on, but
love Botox.
sorry, younger than
um,
me, I guess.
My advice, I would say stay true to your passion. Stay, as
Right.
long as you're excited by what you write, and you genuinely feel it. Obviously, have to keep your ego in check. When there's a good criticism, learn how to take it. But I
Yes.
find sometimes I was feeling a lot of pressures to fit into a certain mold, especially that my book is considered dark romance, dark erotica. There are specific tropes that the readers expect. And I've had a lot of readers lash out completely. I did my own thing and really like very, they were very, you can see in the reviews, they're very upset. I'm like, why would you do that? That's a horrible way to, end things or whatever. There's a bit of a twist ending, a bit of a cliffhanger. So, and I had to accept that price to pay. I accept that it's not for everyone and it's okay. But my
Yes.
readers, the people it's meant for, will appreciate it.
I think that's exactly it. Yeah. So many people try to write for everyone. Like, we want to please all people at all times, Virgo again.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can't. Because you're going to make, especially now, you're going to make someone mad somewhere. I mean,
Exactly.
the most benign joke, like, oh, we can't say that anymore. But we can't. We just said it. So someone laughed. Now, I'm glad you said there's a twist ending. Now, without spoilers,
Yes.
who does Kylo Ren kill in this one?
So I believe it's his twin daughters.
Oh, Kylo Ren kills first Papa and then the twin daughter. Oh my gosh!
But Kylo Ren is the guy or the girl in the new one?
The guy.
Okay, yeah, that's the Adam dude, right?
Yeah, that's Adam.
Well, I liked his portrayal, to be honest. He wasn't bad.
I actually kind of see him in your book, by the way.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect to cover Star Wars that much.
We're talking about Star Wars and only Star Wars. No, but if you're casting your book,
yes,
don't you see Adam Driver in your book?
No, I that's so funny you say that. Me and my sister actually sat down and did a full casting of the characters.
Cast it.
Okay, so Kane, I imagine a mix of like Ben Barnes and Henry Cavill.
Yes.
Laura, I imagine like a young Kate Moss, Natalie Portman, that style.
So who's talking about Star Wars now, huh?
Yeah, see? So I'm not gonna give away the other.
No, yeah, no, nothing but I can see that. Now, maybe because I have Adam Driver topless in my mind.
But
maybe that's what I'm saying.
With Henry, it's so much harder.
No spoilers. No judgment. It's all good. And plus, he's not doing Superman anymore. Might as well do something.
There you go. He's free.
He's free. Oh my gosh.
Is he gonna watch HauntedMTL podcast? Maybe we should send it to his people.
Well, actually, we played Witcher. So, for you're doing this, is there pressure then for the sequel, like the Sophomore Blues as an album, right?
Of course, there's a huge pressure, and I've been told as any author, your second book is the hardest one to write. And it's not just my second book, it's the second one of the trilogy, which I understand is the hardest one to write.
Right.
So yeah, it's very difficult because I'm not starting from a clean slate. I have to take all the elements from volume 1 and take them into volume 2 and still being true to the past and merge it. So it's you're very limited in your creative, creative process, but at the same time, you still want it to be its own thing. You don't want to replicate too much, but you want to be true to the essence. So it's very difficult, but I am enjoying it. And that's the one thing I'm really trying to do is to enjoy the process. Because I know now I'm looking forward to publication, but then once it's published, I'm like, I miss the days when I was in my living room, no stress, just writing, right?
Just doing it and chilling out. And now it's a deadline. It's hurry up and wait.
So now I just want to enjoy it, and I'm behind the curtains. I'm doing my own thing. My readers have been amazing with me, patient, understanding. They're there, they're loyal. I'm super blessed. I'm very thankful to the people that I've had around me. I think as an artist, as anybody in life, you just need to have a good support around you, whether it's family or friends, because the highs are highs and the lows are lows, right? It's your baby you're putting out there. It's your heart and soul, and as evolved as you want to be, criticism is harsh,
It's one of those things that they can't teach you how to deal with unless you just get it's basically pricking yourself again and again and again, and eventually I can take it now can we give out the second title?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one's Fairy Tales from the Underworld Part 1, A Bedtime Story, Beauty Makes Beast, and the second one's gonna be what?
So the second one is called The Berry Tale, and it's the Star-Crossed Lovers.
Nice.
And the third one is Ode to the Fallen, Down the Rabbit Hole. And that will conclude the trilogy.
That is very, very cool. Okay. That means you either had a lot of dreams as a little girl,
Yeah,
or
I've had the craziest dreams my entire life, crazy nightmares, crazy adventures, usually more negative than positive. I haven't had those like, yay, I had such a restful sleep. Like, no. I've always had crazy nightmares. I've always had a very, very, like I've been very yeah, I have a crazy imagination. I'm always, as a kid, I spent a lot of time alone, always lost in my world, telling myself stories, imagining stories. I spent a lot of time reading, watching movies. So storytelling in its art, whether it's via books or novellas or theater or movies or Broadway, it's just something that really resonates with me because I find it it's not only diverse, but it helps that there's lessons, there's wisdom, there's things you can take from that. So
I agree, and I think that is a part where people want to do a movie, or they want to do a book, or they want to do a story, and they haven't read, or watched. I'm like, how do you tell a story if you haven't seen how to do it? Like, I'm so glad you said you read a lot, especially as a kid, and watch all these movies, because it helps get the structure of a story. You start learning the rhythms. You start learning the actual structures you're putting it in, and it works. It sounds weird, but that is actually part of the work.
Of course, and just so you get that, it becomes second nature to you. So even like I'm sure it's the same thing for you, Jim, but like 90% of the movies I watch, I can tell you within 5 minutes exactly what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So when you watch a movie that can surprise you, is such a like wow moment. And that's why you want to be comfortable. I did. And I wanted to be comfortable in the narrative, that so I have that structure from everything that has built me up, that has helped create me as an author. But at the same time, I wanted to do my own take on it. I wanted to put my little spice.
That's very important. And you're doing this right now on fairytalesfromtheunderworld.com, right? CLM?
That's exactly. Yeah,
Awesome.
fairytalesfromtheunderworld.com. Yeah, and there's the original soundtrack that's available there as well. So I really hope you guys will check it out.
I checked out the site. It's amazing. We were looking at this before, and the Instagrams and the other grams and the telegrams and the whatever grams.
And it's TikTok, the Facebook.
So that's the thing. There's so much more to do. Right before this call, I was doing Facebook. I'm back on Facebook now. Whatever. But
I left. Don't feel bad.
Oh gosh, there's so much more to producing your book in 2023 and pushing your book into 2023 than there was 2013. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the business side and the creative side?
I'm very lucky. I have an amazing team around me. I have my publicist, I have my marketing team, so they can focus on that part of it, and I can focus more on actually the creative process and interviews like that. I mean, this is amazing. I love doing that. Again, thank you so much for having me, Jim. And so that's part of that. To me is fun. You're getting to know me. We're having a normal conversation, but being in charge of social media and stuff, I'm letting other people handle that they're better at it anyways. It's more their thing. I'm not a great salesperson. I don't like the feeling of
You haven't sold me on Costco poutine yet. So when you do that, you're like,
it sells itself. Let me tell you that, Jim. You're going to go there, you're going to take a picture and say, where have you been all my life? And you're going to post it on Instagram. I'll be looking out for that post, let me tell you.
We'll see what happens. I mean, they do good stuff.
Costco did not sponsor this, FYI, everyone. This is...
Yeah. But if you're running after a spot, no, I was going to do a sponsored marketing. So I appreciate all of this time, and I do have one final questions before we let you go on the next book. The first one, of course, is called Fairy Tales from the Underworld, Part 1, A Bedtime Story, Beauty Meets the Beast, which you can get right now, correct, or soon, at fairytalesfromtheunderworld.com. Check it out. Bookmark it. Always come back to it. Follow everyone. Click subscribe, and go. I do, like you said, you have a street team. As I just bounce everyone's mic off, because you can't do this alone. This is creative arts. You cannot do alone. Like, I want to be the writer in the Ivory Tower. That's nice, but no one's going to read them. You have to have a team. So what goes into a good team for you?
First of all, you need to be a trust trust. You
Yes.
need to be able to trust each other, to know that you have each other's best interest at heart. And so I wouldn't just hire a stranger to do that, even if they're an expert. I don't have the budget for that anyway. So
Right.
somebody you trust, somebody who believes in the project. If it's just your friend and she's good at it, but she's doing it to you as a favor, there's only that much that somebody can do as a favor.
Yeah.
So there has to be something in it for them, and they have to believe in the project, and they have to have the skill, the work ethics, and you have to have that relationship where you can genuinely be yourself and give each other that criticism without always having to wear, those 5 pairs of white gloves. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really the yeah, that's the most important for me. That's what's been able to keep the project going. And sometimes, we have it down. One person is a bit more demoralized, so the others will be like, no, it's good, no, no, no. So we can keep
Yep.
exactly, we can, pump each other
Yeah.
up and everything. So it's a friendship too. It's not just a marketing team. You have to be a team in real life. And I think that's, especially as aspiring, authors, that you don't have unlimited budget and resources.
No, I appreciate that. I still remember like we started as a punk zine publisher, and it's like punks like Amelia G and Forrest Black and like Blue Blood, and they would start out Black Leather Times. The whole actual street teams, they would go
Yeah.
out and put flyers out, and it's just like a couple people with like a Xerox machine. That's all it was back in the day.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like the digital version of this, but you had to trust each other, otherwise, there's a dumpster right there, like the old Mitch Hedberg joke, like 1,500 houses or one dumpster.
Well, I mean, that's where I say they have to have something in it for them. So
Yes.
like we have an actual business agreement in place.
Yes.
So they are going to collect on the success of the book.
Yes.
Within their best interest for the book to succeed, and just I'm like, yay, the author is happy. So obviously, human nature, we're selfish by nature. We can try to be as nice as possible, but there are some facts about human nature that you can't just disregard, and you should work with it, which is part of my book, Human Nature. Not always, not everyone is nice, and
it goes brilliant. I think that is part of it right there with the Fairy Tales from the Underworld Part 1 Bedtime Story. Now, if you were going to give one piece of advice to either your younger self as a writer or just writers in general, one thing, one takeaway of you learned that you think everyone should absolutely do, what would it be?
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Boom. Awesome sauce. I agree. LC Moon.
Not that I do it, but that's what I would tell my younger self to do.
No.
I have not accomplished that advice just yet. But
every day. You should, but
No, but I mean, it's an ongoing struggle. And I guess just know that you're not alone feeling that imposter syndrome, that, everyone is going through those doubts. And I find a lot of times we feel so alone. I'm the martyr. I'm the, oh, whoa, it's me. And no, we're all struggling. You're not alone. You're not crazy. Do your best. And it's enough.
Forget the rest. Absolutely.
Right?
Well, LC Moon, I appreciate it. And if you want to check out LC Moon's work, go to Fairy Tales, plural, from the underworld.com, and also check out Part 1 of Bedtime Story, Beauty Meets Beats, and get the soundtrack. Get it all in. Go all in. You deserve an evening like this. Go all in. Play the soundtrack. Read it. Get a bubble bath. It's all goodness. LC Moon, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure being here.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.